I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Carol.
Steve Beardsley,
Present.
Mike Wright,
Present.
Grant Fuller,
Present.
Joe Palmer,
Present.
Megan Sheets,
Present.
Clarence Worthen, Eric Woods.
Present. Got a pretty good mountain scenery.
Can you hear anything on the computer, Clarence? Okay.
I can mess it up.
That's okay, we're just gonna keep you right here on the phone. Okay.
And we have the minutes from the April 10th, 2023 regular meeting.
I'll move we approve the April 10th minutes.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Wright.
Aye.
Grant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Aye.
Okay, next we have public comments. Tina, did you say you don't? You don't need to? Okay. Lauren Murphy?
Yes.
Okay, would you want to come up to the podium, please?
Sure.
I'm Lauren Murphy. I'm a county resident. That said, within a year, I think, or less than a year, Frankfurt's going to be knocking on my back door out here at 2865. So I had a question about, this is a very good plan. It's very comprehensive, and maybe I missed something, but I don't see any of the zoning going out to what's going to be annexed with Frankfurt. Is that correct? Will that be done later, or?
Will you be informed?
John, do you wanna talk about it?
I can.
It's not included on that because it's not part of Frankfurt.
That's what I was wondering.
And so once the annexation occurs, then we'll have time to put that addition on to it. But that'll be a conversation that we'll need to have a discussion on because zoning will have to change and there'll be some, I wouldn't say all the changes, it'll stay agricultural for the most part, but in some areas where like Banderos is going, we'll have to have a discussion about all that. So that's why it's not on that question.
So that's kind of helping me make my point. My concern is that we're getting ready to start construction out there and start building stuff. So it's not going to be under Frankfurt rules. So I guess it's going to be under the county rules, which I did notice the two unified plans look very, very similar. I didn't have time to go line for line. But I don't want to find out that something was less in the county, like a noise ordinance, and then when Frankfurt comes in, it's just going to be grandfathered because we let them build it 9 months before it was part of the city. So I'm directly north of this development. My two concerns are noise. We're going to have concerts out there. We're going to have 3,000 automobiles coming and going. So noise is one. I did see there's an ordinance for outdoor lighting. I did not see much about noise. I noticed there's some around the airport and so forth. But my really big concern is air quality. And I don't see anywhere where anybody has addressed air quality. So if you've been out there, you know, certain times of the night, there's semis parked up and down the entrance and exit ramps, which I'm sure anyone that's Frankfurt may not be able to have any control over that. There's another number of semis at the BP station that sit there and idle all night. So now we're going to have a RV park that's going to have the potential to idle generators and other things all night long and on a hot summer night, and that's going to drift my way, I'm afraid. I've always felt good in the summer when all the surrounding counties have ozone alerts and air quality alerts, and Clinton County really they do some, but it doesn't seem to be as much as the other counties, so. We've got the federal government getting ready to take away lawnmowers, leaf blowers, gas ranges, and force electric vehicles on us, and I don't even know if I can afford it. Yet, here we are passing, I don't know if it was a variance or what, to add extra drive-through lanes at fast food restaurants. Can you imagine how many hundreds of thousands of gallons of gas are burned up in a drive-through in this country every hour? So it just seemed like we should be looking at least look at the impact. One option would be to have an ordinance that says, hey, if you're going to have an RV, it has to have hookups. You can't be independent with your own generator. Truck stops have those options too. They bring in air conditioned air, they bring in internet, they bring in those things. So it just seemed like there should be something. And it looks like we've got time to maybe add some more.
I don't think the RV part of it's not gonna be city, is it?
That's correct. I don't know, do you need me to come up there?
Yes.
I can speak to,
Those are my questions.
not really your problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, up until the point of annexation, the land out by the interstate is within the legislative body's control of Clinton County. There are ordinances on the book, including ones that govern RV parks. That's actually going through as a planned unit development, so it has some customization beyond that. It will be fully hooked to utilities, which my understanding is, you guys may know better than me, but my understanding is those utilities are owned by Clinton County, but operated by Frankfurt. And I don't know all the details and what that arrangement entails, but I have been told that both entities have given permission for the development to attach. Our ordinances require if you're within 300 foot of a line, you must hook into it. And that will include the RV park. But the broader point is, well, I don't recall your name.
My name's
But-
Lauren.
There have been signs placed for different hearings that are occurring. That entire development isn't just popping out of a box. It is going through an approval process and development plan reviews. And it's fairly early in those stages. So if you have interest in what's happening there or specific questions you want answered, or if you want to attend meetings, you can reach out to my office and I can, if you have a piece of paper, I can write down my number.
Okay, I will do that. I appreciate it.
And we can get you engaged and at least be able to follow the process and get your questions answered.
I will say that I did read that RV park ordinance and it doesn't cover everything.
No, and air quality is not something that most zoning ordinances do cover, other than to say it can't be excessive beyond what you find at highways and in normal operations. Trucks and vehicles are something that gets regulated under like the DMV and the state, not something you can typically regulate under local zoning unless they're unlicensed. So, but if you come reach out to us, I can try to find more details for you. If you want to see something on air quality, you can certainly come to Area Plan Commission and County Commissioner meetings and ask if that can be added to that ordinance, but there would have to be some way of enforcing it, and it would have to not conflict with state laws that allow vehicles to have certain rights and emission limits. So we'd have to figure out what that looks like, but I don't know, I hope that at least addresses how it does or doesn't relate to the city of Frankfurt.
event center and everything is not all city. There's just a portion that will come in the annexation, and then the rest of it will remain county. And the RV park is that will remain county.
So it'll be divided. That's all you need.
Does that
Yes,
answer your questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liz. Okay, anybody have anything else? I don't have anybody else on the list, so. Okay, we'll move down then to ordinance number 23-06, and this is third reading.
Mayor, I'll move to pass ordinance 2306 on third final reading. I'll second that.
Okay, and this is an ordinance amending ordinance 82-14 regarding adoption of ordinance after 2 readings. So once this is passed, this means that we no longer have to go through 3 readings. It will be 2 readings in order for an ordinance to be passed. I just want to explain that for those that don't know. So, okay, roll call please.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Grant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Okay, so after that ordinance is passed, right away, should from here on out, we can be passed after two readings.
Last third read.
That was our last third
By
reading.
the way.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 23-07, and I would entertain a motion read by title only or in its entirety.
I move read by title only.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Grant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer. Megan Sheets. Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Aye.
Common Council, City of Frankfort, Indiana, ordinance number 23-07, Unified Development Ordinance of Frankfort, Indiana.
Okay, Don, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this?
I will, thank you very much. First of all, thank you, council, for at least allowing us to bring this before you for one of four decisions this evening. Those decisions being either passed on first reading. If you notice anything that needs to be changed, that you note the changes so we can send it back to the plan commission. Not approving it or tabling it. Those are your four choices for this evening. I do want to give a small history about this unified ordinance, but before I do that, I want you to know that Mrs. Greeno, we've asked her to step in to the audience tonight. She's here this evening. In behalf of Richard, who has poured his heart into this process, has spent a lot of his undesired time or desired time because of his love for zoning. And this unified development ordinance, if passes, will be done in his honor. And so we've asked her to come to be a part of this evening. So a small history lesson on the start of this unified development ordinance. Many, many moons ago, a gentleman by the name of Richard Greeno went to the mayor's office and asked the acting mayor for support in updating the 1967 ordinance. That mayor gave their blessing, and Mr. Greeno put together a group of citizens whose names are noted on the book, on the front of the book that you have before you. And this book will be recognized as Mr. Greeno for his continued devotion to planning and zoning for the city of Frankfort. And yes, Councilman Fuller, I noticed that your name was misspelled. We'll make sure we get that taken care of properly. I apologize for that. 7 years. You did it.
I've been used to that my entire life.
I gotta tell you that you read through it and it just, you know what it's supposed to say, and so we're appreciative. No, I'm a little better than that. 7 years later, we are now coming before you, the council, to give you a recommendation for passage. If this board decides to send it forward as the plan commission, I'll do all that. Back in 2014, the city council passed a comprehensive plan, but the plan did not match the zoning ordinance. This was the big reason for Richard's work so hard in trying to get this ordinance passed, since both the comp plan and the UDO outlined the goals to move the city forward. So with that, I'm going to stop for a second and call your attention to the maps. The one on the north end of the council is our current 1967 zoning map that's been updated by Susan Palmer. Whenever anything got changed, you would make those changes on it. And the one on the south end will be the new current zoning map. And we'll talk a little bit about that right now because you'll notice a couple, at least maybe 3 changes in it. First of all, you'll notice that the industrial line has shrunk tremendously. And I worked very hard on doing that because you don't have a lot of control of what goes on in a industrial area. And it being the fact that it followed railway lines, it would cause some potential challenges in the future as what could or couldn't go there. So we shrunk that, and basically where it is existing along Washington Avenue and maybe East Ohio Street is where there is an industrial situation there, or in the case of Washington Avenue, Mr. Wampler is sitting there. So we did that, and then we did what the comprehensive plan asked us to do. So when big changes in the zoning map of the city of Frankfort started, it was the comprehensive plan that guided those changes. For instance, we're removing D-residential zone areas, and the D-residential is where multifamily housing was to be granted per D-residentials. In 2035 comprehensive plan under Part 3 community living housing, it states that the limited future multifamily uses and eliminate existing illegal conversions. This can be done by accomplishing through down zoning most of the city residential areas for primary single family use and stop future conversions. Any two-family or multifamily structure shall be obtained approval either from the Plan Commission or through rezoning on the Board of Zoning Appeals through the approval as a special exception. So the other thing that you'll notice in the 67 map, all the orange area is C residential. It kind of disappears, and we made it disappear because of the comprehensive plan asking us to look at trying to control the use of multifamily dwellings. One thing that you'll notice on the new map, you'll see little spots of oranges that are in B residentials. That's because we did the best we can, and I'm not saying that we got it all covered because I'm sure we've missed some. But property now that is multifamily, as in on Beacon or paying taxes as multifamily, we went ahead and designated them as C residentials so that they now will fit into the process. The changing of the UDO will not affect any of their property as of right now that we have marked on there, because that's why we did it. If there is multifamily dwellings that are sitting out there that haven't been paying proper taxes as multifamily dwellings, and we come across those in the future, then they'll be required to come before the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, for their exception to be where it is that they're in. And so it now becomes the right of the BZA. It's an advertised hearing. So everybody within 100 feet of the property will have the ability to come in and voice their opinion if they so choose to. And the BZA can either say, yep, we'll make you a multifamily dwelling. Maybe they'll put stipulations with it by saying you need to make sure you go down and acknowledge that into the property tax roll so that you're paying proper taxes. So that process, I think, is a good process, and that's why you now see smaller C residential districts and a larger B residentials, because in B residentials are not allowed. That doesn't mean that you can't put a duplex in it. Duplexes are allowed in B residentials as special exceptions. So there's not a challenge with that, but it is a way to try to do what the comprehensive plan has asked us to do. By removing the D residential districts, which was placed for multifamily use, and now expanding Cs is the reason to make this multifamily dwelling come before the Plan Commission, as I so said and as I so talked about. The new ordinance will have two-family dwellings as special exceptions, which we talked about also. We also have added an agricultural zoning district to help the city as it annexes the ground going towards I-65 and other farmland that are already located in the city limits. For example, on this map out here on Kelly Road, there was a farm ground that would be closer to the end of Williams Road that was zoned, actually a county zoning as agricultural, which doesn't allow us to deal with anything that were to be built in there. But now by making it an agricultural zone area, it locks that down to where nothing can go in as long as it's agricultural. And it would have to come before any of the boards, before anything got moved in there to have it rezoned. So that means it would also come before you, the city council. So having an agricultural district, I think, is a good addition to the zoning process. This unified development ordinance is about updating the 65 ordinance to today. This ordinance talks about erosion control as, I want to stop, I'll go back. We're adding agricultural zone area to help the city, as I said, go to 65. The Unified Development Ordinance is about updating this 67 ordinance to the day. This ordinance talks about erosion control as a requirement for placing a subdivision. This will still while still maintaining street widths, making sure that the right of way for utilities and sidewalks are placed. Lot sizes are properly increased in some residential areas. The ordinance as solar energy systems while keeping the overlay word by word in the current ordinance. The sign ordinance stays the same as the current ordinance. We will introduce impervious surface to the current lot sizes. Are there controversies? Sure. Some of the residents may not like the fact that we are adding an agricultural zone district and the ability to raise up to 6 hens on your property. This ordinance from the hens came straight out of the City of Carmel ordinance. Chapters to cover, chapter 2, 204, the administrator, that has 2 new titles that will be given as part of the new ordinance, that is zoning administrator and subdivision administrator. So the plan commission will now have to appoint appoint a person to be both the zoning administrator and the subdivision administrator. Chapter 5, accessory apartments. So 502 in the accessory apartments is the ability to have multi-generation families living on one lot. For example, mother-in-law suites, which we don't have right now. And actually, that came up before the BZA last month. At the Plan Commission, it was a public hearing. That's the only place that it was required to have one. At that meeting, there were individual people there that did not come to say yes for it or say no for it. They came to listen for any of the definitions or things that were going on. And so we have nobody from that meeting that was either for or against it. At this point, I'm willing to take any questions.
So, can anybody have chickens?
Up to 6. They're allowed up to 6. There are regulations that you have to follow. They have to be in a chicken coop, or they have to be in a chicken wagon, I think is what it's called. I'm not sure. Basically, one is permanent, one is portable. Everything has to be in the backyard, and they have to be kept in a clean and neat way.
So somebody on Barter Street can have chickens.
Yes.
Somebody on Herbert Terrace can have chickens.
Yes.
I don't know if I live on Herbert Terrace, I might want.
And you'd be surprised. I've had people ask about in all sectors of the
Well,
I'm a block off from Paris and I desperately want
my concern is you're gonna, if you have chickens, you're gonna get foxes, you're gonna get coyotes, and well, you're gonna get more. And, I'm not saying I'm against this, I'm not saying that at all, that's just a concern that I have. If somebody with a small dog out there with chickens, I'm not worried about my dog.
They're in a coop. They have to be fenced in. They can't be out meandering in the backyard.
Right.
So as a protective for the hens, I would think that they should be as safe as possible without anybody getting to them.
They're allowed in New York, Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, Seattle, Los Angeles, Denver, Carmel, and many other places. I don't think we're
Maybe
more
the ones-
cosmopolitan than that.
The ones here with chickens, maybe they could move there. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. You know how
I do.
if they want chickens, we'll move out the country.
Exactly.
So that's, I'll be bold enough to say it. So. What happens when they want a picnic? Or they want to pop down the pig?
In the ordinance and the agricultural use, if they're not stated in the ordinance, then they're not allowed. I do want to say that in this process, the mayor had asked that we hold back to allow our new city attorney to go through it, Alicia, and she did. Made a lot of changes to the ordinances that made it better. And I'm going to actually
turn it over to her so that she can, talk a little bit about her side of the ordinance.
So I did read the whole ordinance, cover to cover, made a bunch of changes, worked with Dawn and, Liz, who put it together, in InDesign to get the actual book physically put together, to get those changes made. And overall, I'm really in favor of the ordinance. I know we may not like chickens, but those things can be changed at a later date if we did want to make those changes, if we determine chickens were something that we wanted. I think overall, the ordinance is a really great addition to the city of Frankfort. Developers are looking for ordinances like this. Other communities, which have more development than we have had, typically have these ordinances. Lebanon has it, Carmel has it, Lafayette has it. And these are the sorts of ordinances that people are using more commonly today than what we have before. From a legal standpoint, I really like it because it's extremely user-friendly if you're on the internet. The book itself is not as user-friendly. If you're looking at this book here, it's not as good, but once it's on the internet, every single blue word is a clickable link that will bring you to the definition or to the section that pertains to what you're looking for. So it makes the legal research element of it extremely easy. And it saves a lot of time as far as that goes, and that makes it really a great feature for attorneys, especially people in the younger generation who are mostly online at this point. I can tell you I haven't looked at an ordinance book in a very, very long time. Pretty much all of my legal research is online. The other thing that I really have in support of this is that I think when we do end up with the annexation, we've got this future growth that isn't dealt with in the 67 ordinance, and that's going to cause problems that we're going to have to deal with from a legal standpoint at a later date. This ordinance allows us to address those issues in advance instead of coming at them on the backside and trying to clean everything up at a later time. So while I understand the debate about the chickens, I am really in favor of the ordinance because I do feel like it is going to move Frankfort forward and it's going to help us grow in a positive way that will allow you all the opportunity, or the PCA or the Plan Commission, the opportunity to hear about these this growth and make decisions on it in a comprehensive way.
So with chickens, does that include roosters? Because they are.
No roosters. No, just hens. And they do have to be enclosed, and there are regulations on that. Chickens is always going to be an issue that people disagree on, I've found in my practice. But aside from the chickens, my opinion on that really doesn't matter. But aside from the chickens, I do think that it is a really great ordinance, and a lot of work and time has been put into this by a lot of folks who want to see Frankfort continue to grow in a positive way.
As I look at this, this is the result of years and years of careful work by a lot of different people, and we could debate different small parts of it forever. But what we've got developers that are being held up, and once it's passed, it's not like it's in stone. It's very amendable. It's a living document. So if there's things we don't like but we want to fix later, we can fix them. But you know, it's been sitting here for a long time, and there are people that need to know that's the rules and to get on with it. So I'm in favor of going forward with it.
If I may speak to the amendability of it, it's pretty common for unified development ordinances to be amended even annually. They're constantly updating as things change because the world is constantly changing. And this document allows for amendments to be made really easily. And so if a year goes by and we decide we don't want chickens, then that's something that can be changed with ease. And it would be something that we wouldn't have to have set in stone forever. And in fact, it's really common that they are changed regularly multiple times a year. In fact, for a lot of other communities.
And we will be coming to you because in the subdivision ordinance, it requires that all the streets be made 36 feet curb to curb in width. And it's not called for in residential development. So we're not bringing it to you now because trying to see if we can get this passed. But what we're looking to do on the new subdivision coming in at the Meadowbrook area is to allow the Plan Commission to make their variances in that process, and then come to you with the changes that we would like to have made for our streets and the widths of streets when we get into residentials.
You're talking about 36-foot curb to curb on cul-de-sacs and what's that mean? Well, one thing it means is that it's more snow that we got to push off and more concrete or asphalt that we have to take care of once it comes to our way. So no sense of having something that's really not necessary in a subdivision that wide of streets.
So if this goes through, walk body, will it still be the city council for any revisions to it, or will it be the planning commission, or, you know?
It'll come through you. You'll make those changes.
So little errors, like if we find a typo, something's spelled wrong, your name, for example, is spelled wrong in there, the plan commission can make those changes. They will provide notice to the council, and then if the council doesn't say anything within 30 days, those changes will be made without having to require council action. But any other changes to the ordinance will be brought before the council for the council's decision.
And none of this is, if we vote on it tonight, has to be any kind of public notice.
The public notice already occurred. It was at the plan commission level. So the plan commission did already hold a hearing on this and offered it to the public. And in fact, a whole slew, I don't know how many, Don, but a whole slew of notices were also mailed out as well.
2,000.
That many.
So for amendments, it would just be one time for the council. Is that correct?
Yeah, they can't, it would come before the council, and then the council could vote on that amendment, just like
One meeting would
Like on
change.
the resolution.
it would still be an ordinance. I don't think it would be a resolution, but it would be an ordinance that could all be passed. Because it's an amendment to an ordinance. So.
I don't know, I spent 3.5 years of my life working on this thing. And along with Clarence, we made drastic changes all the way through, but we never knew if the changes ever got made. I looked at it. I told Don once before, I felt like it was 90% accurate. In some cases, it belonged more to the county than it does the city in some things. But I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say, I tell the other council members that I'm not supporting it, but yet, that's their choice. I definitely am probably not gonna support it.
So, Alicia,
Yes.
on second reading, someone could offer up an amendment, such as removing chickens if they wanted to, right?
Yes. You can also, before you pass it, you can also have changes that you want to be made, and it can go back to the plan commission in order to make those changes before it would be brought tonight as well.
So tell us what the choices again.
So your choices are to pass it on first reading, to note the changes that need to be made, to table it, or to deny it. And if you note the changes that need to be made, that will go back to the planning commission, and they will have an opportunity to make those changes and bring it back before the council.
My personal opinion on it is, for future growth at Frankfurt, I think it needs to be done. And it can always change. I know a lot of work's been put into it. I hear Joe's concerns on it. But I think it's an important thing to move forward on, is my personal opinion.
Definitely need to upgrade from 67.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
So I know I'm talking out both sides of my face. And Nancy, I gotta spend a lot of time with Richard in this, so.
So how many years has this been, Joe?
Long time, I can tell you that.
7 years.
At least 7.
When it first started off. I know when I came in 3 years ago.
And we have talked about it since, I know Harold, about needing to do some changes on it, so. Like I said, we definitely need to have changes that just don't 100% agree with. And I understand that we can change it at any point, so.
Mary?
well, I was gonna Go ahead and ask your question before I make it. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to pass ordinance number 2307 on first.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Bright, Brant Fuller,
Nay.
Joe Palmer,
Nay.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen. That was an aye from Clarence for those that can't hear. Eric Woods.
Okay, ordinance 23-07 passes on first reading. Next, we have ordinance number 23-08, and this is also on first reading.
Because of the UDO, Unified Development Ordinance, it has actually called a subdivision process to have a development plan put in place. And we had nothing in the way of fees that required that, because we never had it before. So we have adjusted our fee schedule. We haven't adjusted the prices of a lot of things. I'm gonna tell the ones that we have, which is one, solar. We've not dealt a lot with solar. We've had a couple. And it's difficult to try to figure out a cost, and if you don't have it in front of you, you can't. So we put a price for solars, as in $45 per panel. We added a price in the BZA fees of $25 for additional requests, and that has to do with in case the advertisement in the paper, such as what we did for the UDO, would exceed what we charged $70 for. So we're trying to basically just cover our costs when we advertise in the paper for a variance of developmental standards, a use variance, and then a special exception, which is basically just $70. Because that advertisement isn't going to be the potential what it would be for the other two. We also added that developmental plan. It's $50, not $70, because a developmental plan does not have to be advertised, but it just takes care of costs of copying, making copies and things of that nature for the meeting itself. Other than that, there's not hardly any other price changes that I know of that exist in these fees.
Don, do you know on solar, on an average residential home, how many panels?
I don't. We figured no more than 2 because they usually base on top of a house. But I don't know that because we haven't had a lot come before us. I know the ones that have was either 1 or 2 panels, one on a garage or one on a house. We require that they have to have a structural engineer to make sure that it can take care of the weight of what these panels are. So that's all that we request right now. But we don't charge because we don't have a fee for it. We do not believe that we're going to get into banks like what's going on out in the county because of the property that exists in the city. So we're figuring 1 or 2 panels at the most.
Okay, I have a motion to read by title for.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I tried to stop you, but you wouldn't
So
stop.
you should have thrown something.
I'll make a motion to read the title only.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Brant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets. Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
You know, as a former mayor, you think I've known that.
Yeah, I tried to stop you.
Yeah.
Just kept going.
I'm sorry. I'll move to pass ordinance 2308 on first reading.
I need to read the. Common Council, City of Frankfort, Indiana, ordinance number 23-08, an ordinance amending and restating the fees for building permits and certificates of occupancy.
Now I'll move to pass ordinance 2308 on first reading.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
The only question I had, Don, and I don't know if you remember, wind energy system. I thought you said no on those. Is that just for special exception?
Yeah, just in case it comes.
Roll call. Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Grant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets. Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance number 23-08 passes on first reading. So since we're in this new second reading thing, we can make amendments till second reading and then it will be completed. Okay. Okay,
If you make amendments to the UDO though, it won't complete it, it'll send it back to the.
right, okay, but on this one, okay. Get used to this two reading. Okay, next we have resolution 23-05. And is a declaratory resolution designating an economic revitalization area.
We have representatives here from Zachary to speak on that.
Do we have anybody Shane here?
Well, we have Amy and Lance here.
Okay,
Do you want to share anything, or I can start, I guess, in this sense. Real quick, I'll introduce these guys. This is an expansion that they are been looking at for the last probably about a year and a half now. It's going to be able to expand their jellies that they are now working, that they actually make on a regular basis. They got a big Walmart contract a few years ago, and that just continues to blow up. So it's exciting to see this is happening. And if you ever been to their store, they sell a lot of jellies there at their store. So, but Amy and certainly can talk and speak to any more. She can be here to answer any questions that you might have. She has more of the details on the exact investment. It's around $30 million as far as investment. So, Amy?
Lance and I are gonna need a different microphone
Yeah.
height. Thank you for the time tonight. We appreciate your consideration of this, support for Zachary Confections. My name is Amy McDonald. I'm with KSM Location Advisors, which is a part of KSM, a CPA firm in Indianapolis. And here with Lance to quickly, I guess I can go over the project, just, high level for the whole group. Zachary Confections is expanding. They're converting 20,000 square feet of their warehouse space to production space. They are going to be spending about approximately $30 million of investment on both improvements to their facility and also more advanced production equipment for their product. As you guys know, they've been here since 1950. Family-owned business. I think they're on their third, maybe fourth generation. Third generation, working on the fourth, I think is what they said, in the community. And it will also involve 20 new positions over a span of a few years. And the positions will be more kind of highly skilled positions because of the more advanced equipment. So paying approximately a base wage of $15 an hour. That's without benefits, et cetera. So that's kind of the stats of the project, and I will turn it over to Lance just to make a few comments about the company. Thank you.
I do know I can talk. I mean, she laid it out pretty good, but we're basically expanding our business. Putting in a brand new candy machine, basically, which produces the jellies, which will also allow us to use one of our other current machines to only make candy corn, which is a big seller for us. And then there's been some consolidation in the candy corn business where it's only us and Brock's in the United States who produce candy corn. So there's a big market for that, and we need that machine to produce just the candy corn, and the new machine will produce the jellies. So it will expand our business and really keep a lot of people employed and more people employed here in the Frankfurt area. So if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy.
How many more employees are you looking at?
Well, 20 for the new facility. itself, but then on top of that, I can, we're always looking for new employees, honestly. So, we could probably add 50 more if we could, find the employees for our current operations.
Finance Committee has also had discussion by a Zoom call or GoToMeeting, I forget which it was. So anyway, they've been involved in this abatement process as well. Do any of you want to say anything about that?
Sure, I think, yes, the finance committee, we've had a chance to look it over, and it's just very exciting to have such a good corporate citizen, such as Zachary's in our community, wanting to continue to invest in our community as well. The 30 million is an exciting figure, and proposed additional employees, is particularly when we're looking to increase our housing market as well, and perhaps that will be attractive as well. So you can see in the resolution, there's 2305 on the 1, 2, 3, 4th page. There's an abatement schedule that's been proposed that the finance committee has agreed. It averages 60% of an abatement over just a 5-year term. And we felt that that was in line, that was their request, and we certainly agree with that.
Make a motion to pass resolution 23-05.
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Brant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Aye.
Resolution 23-05 passes. Then next we pass this, we'll have a confirming. Right, we'll have to have a public hearing. Okay. Okay, anybody have anything under old business? We don't have anything on the agenda, but if you have anything. Next, we have CF1 approvals. We have the Zachary abatement proposal. The SB1. Is that for the, do they need to pass that? Is that something we pass separately?
I think it does, yeah. We just did the declaratory resolution to designate an economic revitalization area, so that one needs to be.
Okay. Is that right? Do you want me to go ahead and list the others, or do you want to do these individually, or?
Then we can do Zachary's by itself, and the other three.
Together,
Together.
okay, okay.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Zachary SB1 forms that were presented to us this evening.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry, was that Brant or Joe? Joe. Thank you. Roll call, Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright. Brant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Aye.
Okay, the SB1 for Zachary Confections is passed. Next, we have a Frankfurt Medical Office Facility, Coomer and Sons, and Wesley Manor South Side. I think we just got the Coomer and Sons a little bit ago. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look it over. And then also the Wesley Manor South Side.
And I wanted to address the Frankfurt Medical Office. I've talked several times to Jay Moore. The concern last month was that we know that facility has dropped back and that perhaps they might not have the number of employees. Check with Jay. It's one of those funny things that the legislation that established this didn't establish exactly the time period that you report on. So Jay had discussions with the State Board of Accounts and attorneys in Indianapolis, and they, even though it's not exactly stated in the ordinance, the general practice has been that it's for the calendar year previous. So this would be for 2022, and the number employed as of December 31st, 2022, and based on that, they are in compliance. Now, next year will be another story, see what happens this year, but based on what the State Board of Accounts has come down to accepting, it's based on that.
Jay also asked me to pass along to you all that he apologizes for Coomer and Sons coming so late. He received the information from the accountant at 3:35 this afternoon, and so he pulled it all together. He was not able to get a signature on that. If you do decide that you'd like to pass that one as well, you could pass it contingent upon signature prior to May 10th, which is the deadline if you would like to do that. Otherwise, you're welcome to table it or deny it, depending on what your pleasure is.
There is a deadline.
Yes, May 10th is the deadline.
I would move that we pass all three and that the one be contingent on the signature being done in time.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Grant Fuller.
Aye.
Joe Palmer.
Aye.
Megan Sheets. Clarence Worthen. Eric Woods.
Okay, the Frankfurt Medical Office Facility, Coomer and Sons Sawmill, and Wesley Manor Southside, CF1s have been approved. Okay, then Kimberly, would you like to come up with a flag and show the council?
Sure.
Just what Jason wants to do.
What happens when you sit next to me?
Oh,
He says that one will happen, yes.
No. So, Mayor Sheets had a request for an inquiry from a seventh grader, Redmond Porter. I believe you all received the, press release on it. But he actually, the one that he provided us was an inside flag that's hanging up inside of Old Stony. And so this one will actually be hanging at Prairie Creek Park. And the press release kind of goes into more detail of what all the symbols, and I apologize, I don't know them all off the top of my head, but, pretty exciting to have, a youth that Frankfurt's their second home and coming up with this design and the thought process behind it, so.
his grandparents live in Frankfurt, and
Yes,
his mom is from like Thorntown area, I believe. And so they're back and forth between Georgia and Frankfurt a lot. And it's like his second home, and he really likes it here in Frankfurt, and he wanted to design a flag. So guess I was one of many. Yeah, he asked if he could design flags for him. But also that was on a TV station, I think in Georgia, where he was recognized as well for his design.
so the Parks Department will be putting this up, hopefully this week in time for our first concert on Thursday.
Will there be, I guess my only question is, I think it's great, but if you're a visitor to Frankfurt, will there be a plaque or something explaining what it means?
We can definitely do that. I'm hoping to get something on the Parks Department page on the website, that has a picture of this, or I may put it on the mayor's.
I think it'd be nice to, like if you have a visitor coming into, Prairie Creek Park, if they're wondering what the flag's about. There ought to be at least,
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wanted to, share that with you guys. And then while I'm up here, I'm putting in my little plug. Our first concert is this Thursday for Downtown 2 nights. And then, May 20th starts our summer concert series. So while you got me for the flag, you also have me for the event.
Things are going on. Yes,
Give me a
thank
minute,
you,
Jessica.
Kimberly.
Would you zoom in?
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Oh, was that a motion? Okay, I got the
So
motion.
moved.
Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for coming to the meeting tonight. Thank you, friends.